Theater owners are implementing new rules with a new movie.
Movie theaters around the world are warning young moviegoers against being disruptive during screenings of a Minecraft movie. Viral video on social media shows teenagers shouting, throwing drinks and popcorn, squirting hand cream, and destroying theater seats. A New Jersey theater owner banned unaccompanied teenagers after memes on TikTok incited destructive behavior based on lines in the movie. He said some of the parents actually defended the teenagers. In England, movie theaters have warned viewers they could be ejected if they cause a disruption. Minecraft far exceeded expectations by taking in more than $313 million at the global box office in its first 4 days. The movie stars Jason Momoa and Jack Black. Tasha Stevens reporting.
Universal chosen the homeland of Harry Potter to build its first theme park and resort in Europe. The park expected to open in 2031 in the UK. More on these stories.
Number one for live and local
conservative talk.
You can take these facts.
I know for a fact.
It's just about time.
It's not now. When?
Oh, there's just so much to say and not enough time to say it or do it.
I'm sorry. This is our country. This is the country that you and I love.
I'm kind of not surprised.
Man, that's what they need.
Very upset.
A lot of fear.
I agree with that, and well, who couldn't agree with it? It's a fact.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
We'll prevail.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Turns breezy through the day with winds gusting at times as high as 25 or more miles per hour. The cloud cover sticks around, and temperatures, despite that, will still manage to rise to the upper 60s. Forecast a high of 68 for St. Louis. Overnight, we fall into the upper 40s for the low, still keeping the cloud cover. Watch for some spotty showers late this evening and additional rain chances on Thursday. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
Number one for live and local
Conservative talk.
Every day, something new.
news, analysis, opinion.
A partial reprieve on some tariffs.
Trump administration continues to pile pressure on President Zelensky to end the war.
Those cuts have affected at least 18 federal departments and agencies.
I'm not even looking at the market because long term, the United States will be very strong with what's happening here.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Hello and welcome to Wednesday afternoon here on Colombo and Company. We've got election results to discuss this afternoon. We've got Trump tariffs to discuss this afternoon. We've got Elon Musk fighting with another member of another politician, I should say, on the heels of Elon Musk versus Peter Navarro yesterday. Today, it's Elon Musk versus Chuck Schumer. We'll talk about that as we go through the day today. We're also going to have a little fun at 3 o'clock when we open up Klose's Kabinet. We're going to get into those election results and some of the local issues of the day in just about 15 minutes from now when we get our Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd, on the line. But we are starting with some of these national headlines. And to help us understand this crazy world, the legendary Larry Connors.
Thank you very much. Honored to be joining you guys.
Yeah.
Glad to be with you.
Thank you, as always, for your time. Of course, Larry Connors USA every night, 6 p.m. here on News Talk STL. I know you got some exciting things happening on your show tonight, so we'll talk about that as we go through this conversation. But I want to start with Trump and tariffs. We have Paul Kurtman, who is a former Missouri state rep. He he was also a show host here at News Talk STL. He works in the financial sector, so he's our go-to guy when we're talking about tariffs or anything with the economy. Paul's actually going to be with us at 3:30 this afternoon to continue this conversation.
Great.
Because I need help from guys like Paul and people because this is just it just changes every day. The tariff situation is one of the most fluid issues that I've seen in a long time. And it seems like every day we go from the sky is falling, the world is over, we're in we're starting a recession, to things couldn't be better. This is the most wonderful thing ever. It's just a roller coaster ride like we've never seen. And it continued today with Donald Trump announcing that he's going to increase tariffs on China and pause tariffs on a lot of the rest of the world. Another card.
And again, the stock market reacted going up 2,400 points as we speak at this point.
Right.
It could change. I tell people on my show, do not bother watching it day to day. You never get a gist for it. And the other thing you bring up, and Kurtman would be great because he will be more comprehensive and knowledge than I am on it. But I have enough knowledge to know that decades ago, and I'm talking about decades ago, I went to a TV station where I was working and said, we need to do an economic beat. We need to start covering more economic news and everything. TV stations are really good at covering fires, all the pictures, but they don't get the economic stories, and that's why we're in this situation. But I have some background in it, not as extensive as Paul, but looking at these statements that Trump is saying, we're going to have fair deals for everybody, and yes, we're going to confusing wording from Fox News up there a moment ago, pausing most tariffs. It's not clear. And then keeping 10% on. Bottom line is he's a negotiator. And you want to get somebody to the table, you may need to bring a hammer to get them to come in and nail the door shut. And then you start working things out. And that's what we've been going through.
What do you think just in overall? Because like you said, we need people like Paul and others to we're going to get into the weeds of this thing. You need an expert, but everybody can see what, the topsy-turvy.
Yeah, but it's a knee jerk for money.
Right.
That's
so
the issue.
What do you think overall? Because this has divided Republicans and Trump supporters. This issue has. Some people think Trump's doing the right thing. Some people think this is
most of those Republicans
misstep.
that are speaking out. They're worried about 2026. Well, Trump's looking forward to 2026 too. He does not want to have discourse and things upside down going into the midterm elections. That would be if he loses the Senate in particular. If suddenly a vacancy occurs on the Supreme Court, Alito or Clarence Thomas decides to step aside, then he's got a chance to appoint someone. But he's going to need a Senate that will back him on his nominee. No, for most part, you've got to walk away from knee jerk and not do it all the time. I mean, you have a car that has a gauge. It says, your one tire's down a little bit. Do you suddenly rush into a service station and start pouring air into it? You probably don't, but some people look at that little gauge and, oh my God, find a station. It doesn't say it's flat. It's just saying it's down a certain percent or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
You just have to roll with it and understand that it's going to be a change. And then you've got today, Kevin O'Leary, of course, of investment, Kevin O'Leary Investments, Shark Tank guy.
Shark Tank, yep.
He was talking about Trump has hit China with 104% tariff, saying, wow. And of course, China has raised their tariff, which we expected.
Yeah.
They're pushing back
dramatically also.
Yeah, and Trump is pushing even harder. O'Leary says we need to hit China with a 400% tariff. He said they've been stealing from us and doing this for years, and then one way to put them in the box is a 400% tariff. You reach a point where China cannot outlast us. They can't do that on this point, and neither can a lot of countries. They need exports. They want imports. We do trade basically for relations. And sometimes to move products, you reach a point of saturation of corn, soybeans, things of that nature in our nation. So you've got to find others so our farmers can grow it and make money. But if they're going to put such a high tariff on, then the folks at the other end can't buy it. So it doesn't do any good.
So it changes, as we talked about, it changes so fast. So it's kind of even hard to ask this question because you don't know if this is even going to be relevant as this goes through. But the way it looks right now is that most people think that no matter what side you're on, that there will be a period of time where there's some pain, where there's some suffering with the economy and prices and things like that for this.
You get a scratch, they put mercurochrome on it. It stings.
So your personal opinion, Larry, do you think that Donald Trump is doing the right thing by sticking to his guns and digging in on this tariff issue? And B, do the American people, do we have the patience to put up with whatever period of time that is of suffering and
well, I have two. First of all, I'm not privy to all of the knowledge, obviously, and I'm not giving Trump a blanket endorsement for anything. Sure. But I do say that we have been bent over, and our nation has been raped repeatedly by other countries for decades. It's time to straighten up and stop that. So yes, he's doing the right thing there. Two, will the Americans suffer or put up with it? It depends on how hard and in what group. Some sectors might suffer a little bit more than others, and you don't want anyone to suffer. But as Trump was saying, and I will quote him, where was all the crying and the concern when all the steel workers were losing their jobs and aluminum people and farmers didn't have, I mean, where was it crying for them?
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah. I've talked to business. I'm sure you have too. I've talked to business owners personally that manufacture products that get products from China or overseas. And it's not just to save a buck. It's because there's not even an American option in some areas.
And that is true.
So yeah, to your point, the people that are against these tariffs and say that Donald Trump is a misstep from him and he's messing up the economy and all of these things, I understand that side completely, but I don't know. I don't know what else to do. Like, tell me how else can we even the playing field? Because as you just said, Larry, it's clear that the United States has been taken advantage of for a very, very long time.
And
I don't know another way to even the playing field besides what Trump is doing.
And it's not just the tariffs at the cost, but trade barriers. They won't let some of our products go there. Australia.
Yes.
They won't take any of our beef. And yet they sent 400 billion plus in our nation, but they won't take our beef.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta look at some of these regulations, say this is not fair. Let's play fair. And if we do that, then everybody's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But if you're going to try to stick us, and we got to stick you back, that means the American consumer has to decide, okay, I buy the U.S. flag, and to kind of semi-quote Senator Lindsey Graham, if it didn't say it came from God, it came from China. Right. and sure enough, if you buy an American flag, you might find some that's made in China. Well, why are you buying a U.S. flag made in China?
Right.
Because it's 40% cheaper than the one next to it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to buckle down and say, look, I'm going to support my country. I'm going to pay that extra 60%. It probably won't be that much, but to support the local.
Yeah.
And at some point you're going to say, I don't need the cheaper jeans, the cheaper shoes from these other countries, regardless of which one they are. I'm going to try to stay with American.
Yeah.
And that's and we're bringing businesses back from offshore. They're coming back in.
According to the president, over 70 countries have come to him already.
Yeah, looking to make a deal. And look at how much more money has been invested in our nation by foreign corporations with Trump in. Hyundai deciding to build a plant in the U.S. and close down one in Mexico.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is good for us.
Yeah. We're going to continue the tariff conversation, as I mentioned, at 3:30 this afternoon with Paul
I'll
Cartman
be listening.
from PR Cartman Investments. That's going to be a great conversation. Got just a few minutes left here with Larry Connors. I want to talk about your show tonight because you have a super interesting guest on that I think is going to be very educational.
This is great.
For listeners.
This guy, flat out, he's a full liberal.
Yeah.
Admits it right off. But more than that, he's also the CEO and founder of a group that, all those protesters you see on the streets holding signs, they all look similar, and everybody's saying they're probably paid. That's not organic.
Yeah.
He has a company that helps form those groups, prints the signs for them so they'll have a similar message. He said we're worried about some homemade signs might be against what we're doing. And then they pay depending upon, he said, depending on what the event is and how long, it might be $100. If you're out there for an hour for some events, maybe 100 for 4 hours, depending on what the event, how big it is. He is a crowdsource funder and has done this for years. He does it for either party, but generally he gets the conservatives don't do anything with him, but the leftists come in, and he does it for campaigns and other things of that nature. But he says what we all know. They're being paid to be there, most of them.
Yes.
Some of them might just tag along.
Professional protester.
Exactly
Professional protester, which the left has said, when that...
they want to deny it.
Oh, that's not a professional... That's not a real thing.
This guy not only says it, he says, I organize them. I pay them.
That's incredible.
Which did raise a question. I said, so if you're paying these people, if you're paying them individually, then I assume they're filling out 1099 forms and reporting the income, because it's business expense for you. You got to justify it, take it off your line. I said, well, I don't know how some of them are doing. We have maybe one point person, and we assume they do it. Well, in other words, they may not be doing any of it. He's doing it because it's an expense write-off for him. So he's definitely doing it.
I can't wait to hear this conversation, because it really it proves the things that we've all talked about and we've known. I've covered these protests in person, Larry. I'm sure you have too. It's uncanny how on message they are. You get a group of hundreds of people, and you just put them in a room somewhere, or bring them in from. They're not all going to have they're not all going to say the exact same things and have the exact same signs and have the there's always been you've always known that there is coordination. And hearing it from a guy like this on your show tonight proves that.
And there's another key point here. We had an extremely good, engaging conversation. I'm challenging him on a couple of things, but when it's all said and done, we had a civil conversation and discourse, the way things should be. And he was even stating that people need to quit shouting at each other down because you have a different view. We need to be talking with each other, not at each other. He didn't use that phrasing, but that's really what it came down to. Even though he's funding people to go out on the street and hold signs in front of us.
It's really interesting to me that they make the signs because they want to make sure that everybody is exactly on.
Message. Now whether his company actually makes it, but they pay for it to be made.
Right.
So it's a consistent message.
Exactly. But it's a consistent message.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. About a year ago, when Katie was still here, when one of the big protests on one of the college campuses was happening, there was a live interview of these college women who were being asked by this reporter about being at this protest, and it was a Palestine pro-Palestine, anti-Israel protest, and the reporter asks one of the two girls that they're interviewing, like, well, why are you here? What is your message? And she looks at her friend and says, why are we here?
Yeah.
They don't even know.
They don't know.
She hadn't been handed the script yet.
Trump is destroying our democracy. What's he doing? He's tearing up the Constitution.
She hadn't been handed the script
yet. What specifically has he done? They can't answer. Exactly. That was the other thing he pointed out. He said, we push and tell our people and encourage civil disobedience. Your First Amendment right. But he doesn't talk about throwing rocks or blocking traffic or anything of that nature.
At least that's good.
Now, once the event starts, who knows who's going to get it? And sometimes these events get hijacked. Black Lives Matter was hijacking some legitimate protests that were taking place in St. Louis during that period of time. And they certainly took it over at nighttime, I should say.
Well, and tensions run high. And tensions run high also, and you never know what's going to pop off when that is happening. We'd be listening to that.
Oh, you don't want to miss it.
Tune in tonight and every night, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Larry Connors USA right here on News Talk STL.
Larry Connors USA, commentary, analysis, opinion, and education.
Thank you, Larry. Great to talk to you. Thanks for your time this afternoon, and we'll be listening this evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Larry.
God bless.
Yeah, great stuff there. We'll get back into some of those national stories, including the tariff issue, as I mentioned, with Paul Kurtman at about 3:30 this afternoon. But let's go ahead and switch gears and talk about some local news. Election results from last night's elections around the St. Louis area. Also, the latest happenings in the legislative session in Jeff City. The Missouri political insider, Rodney Boyd, joins us next here on Colombo Company.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
If you have any electrical needs or an electrical project at your home or business coming up, the team to call is the team at Grasser Electric, and I can speak to this from personal experience. We've had the folks from Grasser Electric in our home a few times, and every single time has been just a top-notch experience. The techs that work for Grasser Electric are absolutely the best when it comes to customer service and professionalism and the results, how quick they are, how good the work is, just everything that you want in somebody that you're letting in your home to work on is something as important as your electrical needs. That is what the team at Grasser provides you. Grasser specializes in all electrical needs, ranging from large-scale commercial projects all the way down to simple home service needs, such as replacing a bad light switch. They also offer free quotes for new projects. So if you have an electrical problem or just need a quote for new work, call Grasser Electric now. You can call them at 636-441-5200 or just go to the website grasserelectric.com.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
No pain, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Experience history as it comes alive at the Champ Clark Memorial VFW Post 5553 History Day, April 12th in Bowling Green. Presenters and reenactors will transport you through America's war eras. For more info, call 573-470-9066.
This is Larry Connors, and my favorite sandwich at Capriati's is a Philly cheesesteak with peppers, sweet peppers, but sometimes hot peppers. I love Capriati's, and so will you.
Open 9 to 9 daily on Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Reciprocal Tariff Day. Will it be a happy one or a painful one? We will discuss with Newsmax host Mark Lauder at 5:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company. Busy Wednesday afternoon. Big thanks to Larry Connors for joining us in that last segment. Tune in tonight and every weeknight, 6 p.m. Larry Connors USA right here on News Talk STL. From one superstar to another, from Larry Connors to our Missouri political insider, the great Rodney Boyd, joins us on the line. Rodney, we had an election. We're right in the middle of this legislative session. There's a whole lot going on in the state of Missouri.
There is a lot of going on, a lot of change in the state of Missouri and in our great nation. There's a lot of stuff going on. And by the way, everything that's going on, from what's happening nationally, what's happening here at the State House, to what happened locally, has an impact on people and their lives, their livelihood, how they live, how they move about their daily lives. So all of it is relevant. None of it is irrelevant, which is why yesterday was very interesting in the mayoral race. One thing that I tell you, haven't been involved in politics now for 25 years. One thing that I just don't understand and will never understand is how people can make the choice, any people, maybe listening to your show, to not vote, to not participate in the greatest democratic expression of democracy in the country, voting. How 75, 80% of people who, in the case I'm talking about, who've taken the time to actually register, can just literally on a clear, sunny, bright day, just say, I'm not going to vote today. There's something fundamentally broken with a democracy and a democratic republic where that is normalized.
What do you think it is, Rodney? What do you think the reasons
for the life of me, man?
Yeah,
I will be honest with you.
I'm with you.
I can't call it. I can't call it because if you live in an environment, let's say you live in the city or the state, you have to pay into that system, taxes, fees, whatnot. And people and the electoral process is how you hold accountable the people that spend your money, people that allocate your dollars. I couldn't imagine another scenario where someone could allocate some percentage of your bank account and you not even care about who they are, care enough to vote. I'm going to get off my soapbox because it is what it is. But, I was very, very disappointed, not with so much the election, but with the fact that so few people have chosen to participate in our democratic expression of our greatest freedom, who we are. That's troubling, and so that I think it's a conundrum I've experienced now for over 25 years, and it seems to be getting worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because even in a highly contentious and publicized presidential election, or when there's governor races on the line and the president's at the top of the ticket and all of these things, you still see 20, 30, 35% of people not voting. I mean, and then like you said, you get an April election like this, and for something that is massively important, the mayor of the city of St. Louis, and then now you're looking sometimes at 70-80% of people that don't participate.
And listen, and the school board.
Yeah.
And the school board, the group of people. I mean, one of the biggest challenges facing the city of St. Louis, in my opinion, either as big as crime or bigger than crime, is we don't have a school system that is competently educating children. And so people are voting with their feet. They're leaving the city and have been leaving the city in ways that are devastating for the city's growth because they can't find a place to educate their kids. This is not about any particular neighborhood. This is across the spectrum, every race, group, creed, religion. People have been moving out of the city for the last 25 years to the point where the district that I graduated from that had about 80,000 kids in it. Think about that. 80,000 kids is now down to under 20,000 because people are leaving. And so you have a mayoral race, which dictates who's going to sit in room 200 and sort of plot the course for the city, right? And you have the school board race, and you still get roughly 20-some% of people to participate, which means 80% sit out. You don't care about your kids. You don't care about the kids of your neighborhood. You don't care about the education system enough to go cast a ballot. That's an illness, a sickness that we better as a society figure out the cure for, or as they say at my church, you reap what you sow, which means if you sow nothing, you reap nothing. So don't complain about the kids who are uneducated, unemployable, struggling, when you don't even take the time to go vote on who's leading the district. Don't complain about money being misappropriated or maybe being this or that or how bad this is if you don't participate, because you reap what you sow. If you sow nothing, you reap nothing.
Amen. If you vote, you can scream from the mountaintops.
Absolutely.
But if you don't even participate, then you lose that right because you didn't weigh in. You didn't make your vote count when the time mattered. We'll say this, Rodney. The people that did vote yesterday sent a very clear message to the mayor of St. Louis and elected a new mayor, and Alderwoman Kara Spencer, also in a much closer race The comptroller race, Darlene Green, who had been there for decades in that position.
3 decades.
Yeah, that's just
years,
crazy.
30-year incumbent, right?
So, well, here's my question, Ronnie. So the people that voted in St. Louis City yesterday sent the message that they want change. You know, they were looking for turnover. However, I don't really know as a somewhat of an outsider looking in. I mean, I'm a St. Louis resident my whole life, so I'm pretty knowledgeable about this stuff. I don't know. I know that they were very outspoken, that they were obviously done with Tashard Jones as mayor, but I don't really know that Kara Spencer is a massively different type of leader than Tashard Jones. So I know they spoke loudly and clearly, but I don't really know what their message is.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you were to lay out platform, right, probably on about, say, 80% of things, Tashard Jones and Kara Spencer are going to probably be in the exact same place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where they get some differences, and where, at least from what I've seen and heard during the campaign, is Kara Spencer may have a more open door policy, a friendlier ear to the business community about what they think priorities should be. Whereas the Jones administration was not as open to taking those cues from greater STL or the business leaders about how to allocate or how to do. So Kara has certainly said, hey, I'm open to that. And that's why you saw a lot of significant business dollars flow into her camp. I mean, sizable amounts of money from well-known, publicly established business leaders, because at least that is one of the differences that community felt like they weren't getting the kind of response, access, interaction, and action from the mayor. And so that probably is what is most distinguishable. But on most of the policy issues, they're both Democrats, pretty liberal, left of center Democrats who will govern from that place. So they'll govern from the same place essentially, but how they respond to the constituencies will be different. The more interesting contrast is, Donna Behringer, who I knew as a state representative from up here in Jeff City, and then she was a alderwoman before, has been a professed throwback to an era that's kind of long forgotten of a blue dog Democrat, which in some context now has become Republicans in most places. I mean, so she's a very, conservative Democrat who will bring a completely different perspective to the office of comptroller. And just a quick sort of social studies class for the listeners, it's important. The city of St. Louis as an entity is really governed, and the business section, the business of the city, is run by a board called Estimate and Apportionment. Nickname is E&A. That's the mayor, the president of the board of aldermen, and the comptroller. Those three folks really have the lever in their hand of how the business of the city will move forward. And then there's ratification and things that automatic personalities do, whatnot. So, what you've got now is an incredible change at the makeup of E&A in Mayor-elect Spencer, Megan Green, Donna Behringer. These three women, and I think this is the first time that three women have actually been in those positions in the 250-year history of the city. So that's pretty interesting. And they are different in style. They're all Democrats, but their style of Democrat is different. Megan is left of center, probably the leftist of the left. Kara's left of center. But then, to be honest with you, Donna's probably center right Democrat. Yeah. So that these three ladies are now going to have to get together pretty quickly, because the inauguration and the change of power happens rapidly. So it happens on April the 15th. So in a few days, these new leaders step into the roles that they've been elected, and they've got to figure out what they're going to do on the budget. Another massive paradigm shift that none of them have had to deal with is now you've also got the police department governed by a new state board. So you're going to add those four new personalities into the governance mix in the city, along with these three ladies. So there is a lot of change in city government. And the question that people are going to wonder is, what does the new direction look like? Yeah. How is it different? How is it different from the Jones era, even the Cruson era, which preceded it? How does that manifest in terms of palpable change? We do have a new elected board. The former chair of the board lost her reelection bid. So there's a lot of new people sitting in old seats that are going to have to sort of quickly establish what the direction is and how is it different. And it will impact the city. And as I hear up here in Jeff City all the time, as the city goes, so goes the region. And to some degree, so shifts the state.
Yeah.
That's why it's all interconnected. And that's why it's going to be important to see how these new leaders sort of take their role and assert very quickly, what are you doing differently than the person you just defeated in the election? And how will it impact the lives of folks in the city, region, and to a greater degree of the state?
Yeah, talking to Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd. Got a few minutes left here, Rodney, before we move over to Jeff City. I wanted to get Stell's thoughts. And Stell, if you have a question, this is still a longtime resident until very recently of the city of St. Louis. So I know this is very personal for you, Stell. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Rodney, I wanted to ask you, since we've had a day to reflect a little bit on the mayoral race, I was wondering what your thoughts were regarding Tashora and having to deal with the storm that came through. Because for me as a Chicago kid, I look back to 1979 when the mayor in Chicago, Mike Bolandic, did not handle a blizzard storm that winter. And that is how Jane Byrne got elected as mayor in Chicago in 1980. And I was wondering if you have a similar feeling about what happened with the storm here, and if that really affected Tashora's running in this election.
Yeah, I think there's a saying that we've all heard about the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Mm-hmm. I think what the storm did was it sort of galvanized a lot of disparate frustrations and complaints. There were pockets of frustration about, hey, the mayor isn't handling this right. Is her office competent? We don't like, there's some real concerns about how trash was handled, and there's some concerns about how this was handled. Different programs haven't rolled out well. What the storm did was there were probably thousands of people that hadn't formed an opinion, right? Even if they've heard the grumblings that I just talked about. But now the storm affected everybody, every block, every city, every neighborhood. And it kind of ratified for people their perspectives that were sort of pragmatic, that there was a high level of, inefficiency, incompetency. So the snowstorm and the lingering effect of it and the way it was handled had a lot of people go, I heard some things about this administration that people said they weren't this or they weren't that. Personally, I now think maybe they're right. And it created kind of a synchronistic ability for her opponent to point out, well, if you heard about incompetency and you don't know exactly what we meant the way the storm was handled. Mm-hmm. So it became kind of this weird galvanizing point that was very, very difficult for the mayor 6, 7, 8 weeks later to come back from. Because that wasn't that long ago, guys. And right. So for most people who may have been agnostic or sat on the fence or maybe not been so willing to make the change, the storm became sort of a galvanizing point to say, yeah, if that's the way if this is what people meant, then we need to go in a new direction.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
If you think about Kara's campaign slogan, it was very straightforward. We can do better. Mm-hmm. It's not really committing to doing any specific thing. It's just whatever you think has been wrong, our administration knows we can do better. It's an easy rallying cry for people who say, hey, you know what? We should do better. And so I'm going to vote for the candidate that's offered to do better. It reminded me when Barack Obama ran on hope and change without defining hope and change. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
sure.
it gave people a place to put their vote. And for the vast majority of people that don't haven't started tuning into Tony's show and don't follow these issues, the storm gave a codification of some kind of incompetency that people said, yeah, let's vote to do something different. And now the litmus test, it will be what is the difference? What implementation? How do people respond to it? And that's where we are. But I think that storm was probably the point of no return for the Jones administration.
Rodney,
very difficult to come back from that.
We've gone long here, so this last question will just tee up the conversation for next week. Normally this when we talk, it's all about what's happening in Jeff City, but obviously with these elections, we needed to cover that stuff this week. What is the latest in Jeff City? What are the headlines of the
the headlines are budget challenges and budget woes. But that headline is going to change every day because that headline is derived from income, receivables, and projected income, which is inexorably tied to the conversation coming out of Washington, D.C. So a huge sigh of relief today on the pause on the tariffs. because we were about to embrace on some incredibly tight, austere consequences at the state level that would have affected the budget conversation that's having an effect now. The 90-day pause actually gets us through the legislature. I saw the market rebounding already, but the budget is the fuel that drives everything we do in this state, from corrections, education, paying for our National Guard, and all these things are derivatively affected by what's happening in D.C. So that's the big topic. There are a few other bills moving. There's a lot of conversations around taking another approach to Amendment 3. It's not settled, but I suspect that conversation will be volume up in terms of non-budget issues. There are conversations happening right now with a good friend of yours and mine on the Senate floor. People want to listen about how we regulate marijuana and hemp. Hemp was unregulated before the constitutional amendment. There's now a debate right now about how you bring hemp when it's converted to cannabis into line with marijuana regulations. These things weren't thought about before, but they've been worked on for the last few years. There's still some conversations about education reform and what we might be able to what might be able to be done here. And there are conversations about tax policy. The capital gains bill is obviously one that's important, that's pretty close to the finish line. But there are other conversations about what we need to do as a state in a Mo Doge kind of way if Missouri's going to get itself off of an income tax, and what other vehicles are available. Sales tax is the one people seem to like the most versus a property tax. All these conversations are the conversations that are going to play out for the next 6 to 7 weeks before we wrap up session in the middle of May.
Can I tell you, I love Mo Doge. I see a T-shirt there, Mo Doge.
Oh yeah, no,
I think that's a thing.
At least,
I like that.
I will tell the governor that there's a request coming from some prominent people for Mo Doge.
Yeah,
he needs to make that happen.
I'm buying a T-shirt for sure. That we could do some stuff with that. Rodney Boyd, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and we will pick up the conversation next week. Have a great rest of your day, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
You
Okay.
bet. Great
Right,
stuff
bye-bye.
there. And speaking of that, picking up the conversation with Rodney next week, we've got a lot more conversation about what is happening with the legislative session in Jeff City to go this week. Tomorrow, we'll talk to State Rep Justin Sparks on the show. And on Friday, we are going to talk to State Rep Travis Wilson. So we will be getting updates from this legislative session as the week continues here on Colombo and Company. We're going to talk to Paul Kurtman about Trump's latest tariffs announcement in the 3 o'clock hour. Also, right at 3 o'clock, we're going to open up Klose's Kabinet, have some fun with our friends Mark Klose and Skip Weber. And before that, I want to fill you in on the dust-up between Elon Musk and Chuck Schumer. They're going at it on social media. We'll fill you in on the details next.
She says, baby, it's 3 a.m. I must be lonely. She says, baby, well, I can't help but be scared of it all sometimes. And the rain's gonna wash away, I believe it.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL. Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa,
Yes, I'm listening.
play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
New Creation Dental Care, Dr. Matt Boscia, that is who we trust, our family trusts with our dental needs. And if you're looking for a new dentist for yourself or for your family, I can't recommend enough that you at least check out New Creation Dental Care and see if they are right for you. Of course, they can handle all of your basic dental needs, your family's basic dental needs, cleanings, fillings, all of that stuff. But what really sets Dr. Boscia apart from the rest is that New Creation Dental Care is truly one-stop shopping for all of your family's dental needs, from the basic to the more sophisticated. An example of that is the new service that they offer, the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure. This is full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. as little as 1 day, they can take care of that there in the office at New Creation Dental Care. Just one of the many ways that Dr. Boscia and his team stands apart from the rest when it comes to providing all of your dental needs. You can see some amazing smile makeovers on your own right now. You can also learn more about that all on 4 procedure and see everything that Dr. Boscia and the team at New Creation can do for you and your family right now just by going to the website, newcreationdentalcare.com.
Hi, Sean Long from STL Fenceworks. A new fence or deck is an investment in your home and your lifestyle. But how do you ensure that you're getting the most out of that investment? At STL Fenceworks, we know the key is satisfaction. Satisfaction means getting a fence or deck that not only meets your needs, but exceeds your expectations. Satisfaction means working with a team that cares about your project as much as you do. Satisfaction means having confidence in the quality of your new fence or deck, knowing that it was built with the best of materials and workmanship. STL Fenceworks, your satisfaction is our passion. And for me, satisfaction is knowing that providing for your family is how I provide for mine. Visit stlfenceworks.com and experience the satisfaction in making your backyard dreams into a reality.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey guys, I don't know about you, but I love learning about national and international issues here on News Talk STL. But do you know what's going on in your neck of the woods, your city, your county, and its politics? If you live in Jefferson County and want to know more about what's happening locally, join Speaker Tim Jones and me, Councilman Billy Crow, as we dive into all things Jefferson County on Sundays at high noon on Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
On News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Still, I just realized that last Wednesday was the day. Was it What was it?
Yes, you're
Liberation
right.
Day?
It was Liberation Day last Wednesday.
It was the day that
April 2nd.
Donald Trump rolled out his all this tariff stuff, and we didn't have a closest cabinet.
Not really.
So
because he interrupted everything.
We said hello to Mark, and then Trump started talking. So
said goodbye to Mark.
I just realized it's been a couple weeks since we've had
just 1 week
cabinet.
Yeah.
So
since we had a full one, you're right.
So very much looking forward to talking to both Mark Klose from KSHE 95 and Skip Weber from Weber Chevrolet here in just a few minutes. 3 o'clock, we'll open up Klose's cabinet. And after we talk to those guys, we'll talk to Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments about the latest announcement regarding Trump and his tariffs, doubling down on China and giving the rest of the world a bit of a break. And it looks like the markets have responded quite positively to that action. So we will get Paul's thoughts on that at about 3:30 this afternoon. Stell, yesterday we talked about Elon Musk versus Peter Navarro.
I remember that sparring match.
Slinging some names at each other, calling each other morons. And what did Elon say about? He said he was dumber than
a box of something,
of bricks or something like.
Box of hair or something like that. Yeah, you're right.
Today Elon has moved on to Chuck Schumer. And Elon Musk made the claim that Senator Chuck Schumer is profiting off of government fraud. Quote, Chuck, I'm starting to think you're getting a piece of the action with the government fraud, but no, that couldn't possibly be the reason, could it? Musk posted yesterday. Musk obviously has been spearheading the Department of Government Efficiency effort to expose waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. He made the comment in response to a Monday post in which Schumer accused DOJ of sabotaging Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. The post reflected sentiments Schumer had conveyed during a Senate speech. So Schumer said Schumer attacked Elon and DOJ for going after Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, Elon responds by saying, thou dost protest a little too much. Like maybe you got your hand in the cookie jar and that's why you're so upset. Schumer fired back in a response to Musk's allegations, saying, quote, another Elon lie. He wants you to think anyone who dares to stand up to him is committing fraud. Meanwhile, he's taking tens of billions from the government, which is good, Chuck. Early Tuesday morning, Musk fired off a response to a post in which Schumer suggested that Musk is slashing Social Security benefits. Elon's tweet said, quote, make no mistake, or wait, I'm sorry. Schumer's tweet said, make no mistake, what Elon Musk is doing is at Social Security is cutting benefits, to which Elon Musk replied, quote, the intern running Schumer's social media account is lying.
Exactly. And think back to that conversation that Brett Baer had with Elon and all of the other folks working on the Doge committee. They were all seated there together. And Elon was very upfront about saying, I want to work it out so that we find where the fraud is so that we can increase the amount of money that Social Security recipients can get. We're not decreasing anything.
Right.
We want to find out where the fraud is, take care of that, and
if
increase
you get
it.
rid of the fraud and the waste and the misappropriated spending, then you do have more money left over for the good things and for the benefit. That's why the whole Doge, I can't remember what they called it, but giving Americans a check for $5,000, you know, with the extra money. Like, you know, not only is it about saving money, but it's also about using that money appropriately. And I mean, nobody has proven more than Chuck Schumer that he is out of touch with normal human beings.
Exactly.
But this statement and this argument, I think, highlights that again. You know, he was on The View. Remember, he was on The View a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Oh, you know, you business owners think that you know that they used that their sacrifice and you know hard work to build their own companies, and they should get to benefit from that." Like, yeah. What do you like? How out of touch are you when you are making fun of that? And this reminded me of that because he said that he said that another Elon lie. He wants to make you think that anyone who dares to stand up is committing fraud. Meanwhile, he's taking billions of dollars from the government. Yeah, Chuck, that's his job, and that's what we want him to do.
That's why Trump was elected to make these changes.
When you're whining about oh, they're taking all the oh, these are bad guys because they're taking all this money away from the government, buddy. I don't think you understand the American people whatsoever. That's what we want him to do. That's what we need him to do, because we've been wasting this money for a very, very long time. And whether he's directly breaking the law or anything like that, you know, committing fraud or profiting off of fraud, you know, I don't know, but I do know that a lot of Democrats and a lot of politicians have taken advantage of this system and the waste and the fraud for a very long time. And that's part of the reason they're panicking that it's going away. All right. As I mentioned, Paul Kurtman going to talk about tariffs at 3:30, and we're going to lighten things up and have a little fun, open up Klose's cabinet next on Colombo Company.
Because truth matters.
Let's speak that truth.
Because understanding matters.
Let's break this down.
With all that's happening.
And it's happening a lot faster.
What matters most is
the only question that matters here.
Are you informed?
Important issues that are facing this country.
Depend on us.
The latest events.
The information you need.
Here are the facts.
When you need it.
We always have great conversations.
You guys have a great radio station.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
I'm so tired of my water smelling like rotten eggs, iron bound. It makes my clothes and home smell, and my sink and faucet look dirty. I'm calling Jones Air and Water Treatment for their solution to this pollution.
Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to your pollution. Call now for your free water analysis at 636-899-1040 and live with clean, great-tasting water. That's 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
Hey, firearms enthusiast, looking for a family and veteran-owned shop with a wide selection of products and services? Head to DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green. DG Firearms has been your one-stop shop for custom ARs, Cerakoting, laser engraving, gunsmithing, suppressors, ammo, and reloading supplies. DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green, and online at dgfirearmsllc.com.
Get ready for a night of fun to benefit our heroes at the Heroes Care Mouse Races, Friday, May 16th. Doors open at 6:30 with races kicking off at 7. The night includes raffles, door prizes, a silent auction, and thrilling 50-50 drawing. Support our military heroes. We'll have you an absolute blast. Heroes Care is dedicated to supporting military members and their families. And now you can be part of their mission. Tickets and info by calling 636-600-0096 or visit heroescare.org.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the president's tariff strategy will yield positive results for several dozen nations who are responding positively.
Overwhelmed by the response from mostly our allies who want to come and negotiate in good faith.
Stocks are surging on a euphoric Wall Street after President Trump said he would temporarily pause on some of his tariffs as investors had desperately hoped he would. Bassett went on to say that countries who heeded his advice to partner with the White House are being rewarded. He recalls comments he made a week ago.
Don't retaliate. Hold your ground. Let's see what happens. And China, they kept escalating and escalating, and now they have 125% tariffs that will be effective immediately.
One Hong Kong economics expert, Chen Jiwu, says the U.S. tariffs will place significant stress domestically on China should they remain in place 6 months to a year. Also at townhall.com, a former chief of staff for the National Security Council says President Trump's effort to revitalize U.S. manufacturing has major implications for national security. Bob Agnew reports.
Alex Gray says although Americans may assume it's a given the U.S. has the industrial capacity it would need to fight a major war,
it's not.
Gray says the U.S. only rose to the challenge in World War II because it was able to retool an already strong industrial base.
That base is gone. It was hollowed out over the last 35 years.
And he says that's what President Trump is trying to address by pushing for fair trade.
To rebuild that manufacturing base. And I think if he does that, he will go down as one of our most consequential presidents.
Bob Agnew reporting.
And on Wall Street, after the president's tariff announcement, the Dow finished up more than 7%. The NASDAQ composite up more than 12%. More at townhall.com.
The world is spiraling out of control. Financial markets are extremely volatile. Global conflicts are escalating and inflation is everywhere. How do you protect yourself when everything's uncertain? The answer is gold. Specifically, the 2025 1-ounce Gold Eagle in flawless NGCMS70 condition from Global Coin. It's a lifeline in these chaotic times. A rock-solid asset that has outperformed for millennia. Call 888-800-1045 right now to lock in this stunning coin for dealer cost. Just $3,199. Free shipping. No sales tax. Secure this tangible asset you can hold today. The first 100 callers get a free MS70 2025 Silver Eagle. 2 U.S. minted legal tender coins to shield you from the storm. Global Coin stands by you with a 30-day return policy because your security matters. Go to globalcoindeal.com or call 888-800-1045 today. They're knowledgeable, professional, and trustworthy. No gimmicks, just incredible coins at incredible prices. 888-800-1045.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Turns breezy through the day with winds gusting at times as high as 25 or more miles per hour. The cloud cover sticks around and temperatures, despite that, will still manage to rise to the upper 60s. Forecast a high of 68 for St. Louis. Overnight, we fall into the upper 40s for the low, still keeping the cloud cover. Watch for some spotty showers late this evening and additional rain chances on Thursday. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Fox News commentary.
A new study shows women have better hearing than men. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
National security is at risk, and China controls most of the world's supply of antimony, a critical metal for military and defense technology. Military Metals Corp is taking action and securing a Western-controlled supply with projects in Europe and North America. Critical minerals are the backbone of modern defense. Now's the time to pay attention. The stock trades on the OTC under ticker MILIF. Call your broker today or go to www.militarymetalscorp.com to learn more.
Men may be dominating in women's sports, but it's good to know there's at least one area we've got them beat. A new study published in the journal Scientific Reports indicates women have more sensitive hearing than our male counterparts. The study spanned the global community and nearly 500 individuals. Throughout the testing, which examined multiple factors, researchers concluded women showed a higher sensitivity to sound by an average of 2 decibels across all populations sampled. They say this could be due to our exposure to different hormones in the womb or the structural differences in our inner ear shape. And here's the fun part. Researchers also found that women perform better in hearing tests and speech perception, which indicates we might be better at processing information. Better hearing might not always be a blessing, though, especially when our husbands are watching sports and or snoring. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Thank you for the opportunity to let me vent here.
Live and local.
Way to be, guys. 1019 all the way.
This is News Talk STL.
I am home.
Come on, now touch me, babe. Can't you see that I am not afraid?
As President Trump would say, as I was just saying, remember when he came back after Butler? And then when he came to Butler the second time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's his first words getting on stage, as I was saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because this is, we mentioned earlier, we got cut off by President Trump last Wednesday, which was Liberation Day. We had just played we've just played some Doors music, said hello to Mark, and then that was the entire segment. So picking it up with a new Doors song to kick off Klose's Kabinet this week, Mark Klose with KSHE 95 is with us. Skip Weber from Weber Chevrolet is with us. And Marker, hopefully no national news cuts us off this week. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much. Yeah, looking forward to talking about it. And I know we were going to talk a little bit about Val Kilmer, and let's get Skip involved and get both sides on that.
Yeah, and Skip wasn't able to join us last week, and I know he wanted to talk about the Doors and Val Kilmer a little bit. So it's maybe it all worked out for the best. Skip, are you there? Can you hear us?
I'm here. I can hear you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, let's start with the Doors. Did Joey tell you, or was that Emily that he told her, like, never play the Doors for Tony because Tony doesn't like the Doors? That's not a true statement. I don't put the Doors. I just don't put the Doors at the top of as a tier 1, rock band.
The upper echelon.
Yeah, but the upper echelon is supposed to be special. It's not. There's not supposed to be a whole bunch of bands there. I appreciate the Doors a lot and like a lot of Doors music and all of that. Yeah, I just don't put them at the very top of the list. Skip, what are your thoughts on the Doors?
I agree to a lot of what you're saying. They're not known to be great musicians. John Densmore is not a fabulous drummer. Robbie Krieger is a decent guitar player. None of them are wonderful musicians. I always like Ray Manzarek's organ playing. Just because it's an iconic sound, but he's not going to be, Elton John or Billy Joel or anybody like that as far as the piano playing and such. I think Jim Morrison's lyrics were a lot of it in his stage persona.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, some of their most popular songs were not written by him. They were more of like Light My Fire was Robbie Krieger's song. It's just like the combination of it all comes together, and they have good, memorable songs, and like I said, his stage persona was so magnetic.
Yeah.
It comes through even on the radio.
Yeah, he's a rock star, right? I mean, like he is what if you were to put somebody through the rock star making machine, a Jim Morrison type person is what gets created.
To some extent, but a lot of these rock stars, they love the music so much. You have somebody like Roger Daltrey, who's only a singer for the longest time, but he loved the music so much. So by this time, late in his career, he can play half these instruments.
Right.
Because he loves his craft. He wants to write songs, and he learns more of it. And some of these guys that come up playing the guitar, now they can play, mandolin and violin and piano and all this stuff too, because they get deep into it. Morrison just wanted to write poetry more than anything else.
Right. Mark, you got any Doors experiences, stories to share?
I'd interviewed Ray Manzarek, who has since passed away, the keyboard player. One thing that was kind of interesting about Manzarek is they would perform. They didn't have a bass player. Manzarek would double bass on his foot pedals on his keyboard and play keyboard with his fingers and bass with foot pedals, which is pretty talented.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot going on when you got that happening and stuff. But they I think the one thing too that what Skip mentioned, you got a great front man, makes all the difference in the world. When you get a band and you could have everybody would have mentioned Jim Morrison being part of the Doors. Unless you were really into the Doors, you probably did not know the other guys' names. You knew by looking at them, you didn't know their names because Morrison was that all important front man for that band.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Go ahead.
They tried to do a couple albums when he left and moved to France. And that subsequently died, and they just, it was nothing. They got nowhere with it. They just, without him, they were nothing.
That's crazy to think of. That's the first time I've ever heard of keyboards and bass being played at the same time by the same person. But
Geddy Lee, Geddy Lee did it all the time too.
Oh yeah, okay. No, you're exactly right. You're right. I didn't think about that. But that just always blows my mind, Skip. I can barely pat my head and rub my belly at the same time. I can't even imagine what it would be like to sing and play guitar or sing and play piano at the same time. Just like I need all my focus to do one of those things. I don't understand how people can split their brain like that. It's crazy to me.
Well, it's a big part of the reason why the studio stuff sounds so good is because they wouldn't expect you to, if you were singing and playing guitar,
you only do one at a time.
They wouldn't even record the vocals as you're playing your guitar. You'd be singing it, but they'd be recording that track and then they'd lay the vocals on top of it and all that, just to get everything all perfect. And that's why the best live bands are the ones that sound so good, because they really are, doing it well. You can do a lot in the studio to make you sound great.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked, the reason that that Stell picked the Doors for last week's song was because Val Kilmer had passed away last week, and one of his most famous roles was as Jim Morrison in the Jim Morrison and the Doors movie. Marker, was that did you watch that movie? That was, for me, that was I think I was in high school when that movie came out, and
1991 I think it came out.
For me, that was like a documentary. That was like an education and my learning experience about who Jim Morrison was and, what the Doors were all about. And I've always thought a pretty good, a pretty solid representation of his life.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I'm sure it did well at the theaters, and Val Kilmer just tore it up as Jim Morrison. But when I think of Val Kilmer, I go with Doc Holliday and Tombstone.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the best 5 acting jobs in any movie I have ever seen. He just owned that part. That was his autobiography. The name of his autobiography, Val Kilmer, was "I'll Be Your Huckleberry," which is a term that he uses in that movie. And I was talking to somebody about that. It's one of those where I walk in and Tombstone is on, and it's been on for 10 minutes. I'll sit and watch the next hour and 20.
Yeah.
If I come in and it's at an hour 20, I'll finish up to 10. It's just, it's the greatest Western ever made, and Val Kilmer, and he was great in Bat. I thought he was a good Batman.
Yeah.
I thought he was great in Heat and Morrison.
Oh,
but
yes.
That,
Mhm.
yeah.
My
That role,
my
man.
Val Kilmer Skip is Iceman in Top Gun.
I knew it would be. I knew it would be because
Yep,
you're
yep.
such a Top Gun fan, and a lot of people said that when he passed away. They said goodbye, Iceman, and it's a legitimate thing to say because the movie's great. It's really fun. To me, that's not even one of his top 10 roles.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
Here's why: as great as the movie is, the movie wasn't about him. Tom Cruise,
No.
Kelly McGillis, Goose.
No, yeah.
That's really he was a minor role.
Yeah.
He had some good lines, but
Absolutely.
he was very minor.
A supporting
Doc
character
Holliday,
for sure. Yeah.
unbelievable role. Like Mark said, I loved him as Mad Mardigan in Willow. I something about Willow I really like. It's a whimsical thing, but he was great in that. I always go back. My definitive Val Kilmer, if not Jim Morrison, is Top Secret. His very first movie. I love Top Secret. I love that kind of humor. Comes out, same guys who did Airplane. I saw it when it first opened. I couldn't wait just to see the humor. I didn't know who he was, and I loved him ever since. One of my favorite actors. He was great in The Saint, great in Heat, the Ghost in the Darkness, really good movie. There's just a lot of good stuff. But I saw The Doors 3 times in 4 days when it first came out. I saw it opening night. Saw it opening night with a couple friends. The next night, my girlfriend at the time wanted to see it, so we went. And a couple nights later, a friend of mine, I was living in Dallas, a friend of mine came up from south of Texas and hadn't seen it, so we went and saw it again. I loved that movie. I thought it was really, really, really well done. And Jim Morrison was Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
And vice versa in
Yeah.
that movie.
He
That
looked like
showed
him. Yeah.
how talented he was.
So,
Totally
Skip,
agree.
if I can interject here and ask both of you guys, give us your thoughts about the way Val actually immersed himself into being Jim Morrison for that movie. Because from what I understand, there were times when they were actually recording the movie where other folks on the set didn't really think that it was was Jim singing. They found out that it was Val singing. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
That he was so spot on with imitating Jim and his voice that it was like Jim was actually singing it.
Yeah. Skip, go ahead.
Yeah. So he studied at Juilliard. He was a very, very talented singer and dancer, and came in there, and of course he was a heartthrob to the ladies, and did a good job acting. But he was a song and dance man, as his training, and his voice was a very good singing voice, and he emulated the little bit deeper voice of Jim Morrison, and he was perfect. And he sang all of the songs, and he told Oliver Stone, "I want to do it. I want to sing it." And get in and deep into it. And so even like the ending, the stuff that was off screen, it was not recorded Doors music. It was Val Kilmer singing the Doors. I thought it was perfect.
I
And
thought
that's
I
one of the
heard
reasons
somewhere
why I
that
really liked it.
Yeah, I thought I heard somewhere that Val made a comment about I wanted to do it karaoke style and have the voice taken out and just have the instrumental part, and I would sing to it as the movie was being filmed. I thought, whoa, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mark.
that's cool. I did not know that.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, anytime that it's like Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie out now, Timothy Chalamet sings and plays guitar in that. It's like you were talking about, Tony, doing 2 things at one time. Now you're an actor.
Yeah.
Now you got to learn to play guitar.
Right.
You got to learn to sing like Bob Dylan. These guys' talent is off the charts, man.
Yeah.
Off
Yeah.
the charts.
It's like Jamie Foxx in the Ray movie, in the Ray Charles movie.
Absolutely.
Another
Mhm.
one, just
Absolutely.
another perfect example
Yeah.
of somebody really just immersing themselves in the role and becoming that person and actually performing in the movie.
Yeah, Rami Malek is Freddie Mercury. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of good ones. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, but I think the standard. I'd still say the standard was Val Kilmer. I mean, these other guys coming in, did just as good a job. But I don't recall somebody being that immersed in it before the Doors.
No, I agree.
All the other
He was the first example of that. Yeah.
Not quite. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially-
You're
especially
exactly
when
right.
it comes to singing the songs.
Yeah.
Themselves.
Yeah, because the other examples, like I said, Jamie Foxx, Joaquin Phoenix with Johnny Cash. I mean, those are all
Right.
those came all after Val Kilmer and the Doors. We talked on the other side of somebody, a real human being going through the dedication and learning process of transforming into somebody else and learning how to sing or learning how to play an instrument to perform their role. We've talked this segment recently about AI and CGI and how those things can just replace everybody now. And I guess you don't need an actor to do Jim Morrison. You could just create him in a computer. I thought this story was really funny, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. Well, interesting maybe is a better word than funny. An artificial intelligence generated avatar was the source of contempt inside a New York courtroom after judges quickly realized that the attorney arguing the case in front of them was not real. The scene unfolded as Jerome DeWald, a plaintiff in an employment dispute, approached the stand of the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division's First Judicial Department. Whoa! On March 26th. The appellant has submitted a video for his argument, said one of the judges. We'll hear the video now. The screen turned on, displaying this this person that starts talking and says, "May it please the court, I come here today as a humble pro se before a panel of 5 distinguished judges," and starts to represent this guy. And it's an AI, it's an AI attorney. And the judges figured it out pretty quickly and flipped. Like they lost it on this guy. But, I don't know, Skip. I mean, I saw the video and you can kind of tell after a minute, like this is not a real person, but I bet we're closer than people realize to something like that, maybe actually, working or looking like a real person. How crazy that this person brought an AI attorney to the court.
Time to bring back Max Headroom.
Yes.
Let's bring Max Headroom back.
One of my favorites.
Let him do some of this.
Some people would argue, Mark, that the AI could do it better than a real attorney. That would be smarter and faster and maybe could, use court precedents and things like that at its fingertips, for lack of a better term.
You know what?
What do you think?
How soon is it going to be before? I mean, they've already started it with computers in baseball instead of umpires.
Yeah,
you got called balls and strikes by a computer, and it's like you start losing all that interaction,
humanity.
With human beings. It gets a little weird, man. Gets a little weird.
Yeah, there's Skip. There's a survey that I pulled to go along with this story, not related, but I thought just a perfect example of this. Somebody just conducted a big poll on social media, and the results are that nearly a third of Americans already trust ChatGPT more than the experts in a given field. So, for example, it says that 33% of people would trust what ChatGPT says for financial advice over a financial advisor. 30% would trust ChatGPT's medical advice over a doctor. I mean, people are really starting to, trust the computers over the humans. I don't know if that's a good thing, Skip. What do you think?
No, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. I mean, computers make those calculations fast, but, I mean, in your medical, how much does the doctor, listen to the pain in your voice or, watch your reaction instead of just listening to, cold, hard facts. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like that at all. I don't think it would be as good.
Yeah. I don't like giving my order to a computer screen at the fast food place. So I definitely I'm definitely not ready to trust it with my medical advice, but I know a lot of people are. What do you think?
Oh yeah, no, it's and the thing about the fast foods, that's the future, brother. That's right. If not here now, it's right around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. One more thing here I thought was interesting. Speaking of times changing. Another survey was just done that says 20%, 1 in 5 of Generation Z has never written a handwritten letter. And Skip, I'm actually surprised that number is not bigger. I would have thought it would be even more than 1 in 5 that have never written a handwritten letter, which is sad.
Right, I am too, but I'm not. I'm very surprised it's not higher because my kids were pretty young when they went full computers, but that was still a long time ago. So since then, people coming in kindergarten and first grade when they're first learning how to write, they may have learned their letters, but as far as writing a letter, they were typing on the computer for their assignments before they really quote unquote wrote letters. In other words, they may have learned how to write and did spelling and wrote it with a pen or a pencil and spelling and all that. But when it got to the age where they're writing a letter, they're using computers in the classroom. And so why wouldn't you do it at home or anywhere else, sending emails instead of writing letters? I don't like that at all. I still do a lot of notes handwritten.
Yeah.
I see people in meetings I go to, they're typing on, iPads or tablets or whatever. I still prefer the handwritten note. To me, I remember it better.
I totally agree.
Writing it than when I type it.
Yes, I totally agree. When you're taking notes and you're actually writing it, it sticks in your brain
better
a little
than
bit.
typing for me.
A little bit better. Mark, when I saw this survey, it hit home because just this past week, my daughter Maggie, who's 14, is trying out for cheerleading, and she had to fill out some forms. And it said there was the standard print your name and sign your name. And and she looked at me like, what's the difference? And I was like, well, you just write your name here, print your name here, and then, sign it here. And she's like, I only write my name one way. She's like, what do you mean signature? Like, I print my name. That's how I write my name. That's all it is. There's no difference. And I was like, well, then just do it the same way twice. Like, she was totally confused by, am I supposed to write my name 2 different ways? Like, I don't get it, but it's exactly this, they don't do handwritten notes or anything like that.
Yeah. It's, there's some schools, I'm sure I'd heard that weren't even teaching cursive anymore.
Yeah. No, they don't.
It's like spelling. It's the same with spelling. You get spell check. Do you really need to know how to spell very well? It's like, it's the computers are taking over.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, before we go, what's the latest with the band and KSHE 95? What do we need to tell people about?
Well, KSHE, we had our contest, which March Madness, and Rush won the whole shooting match last, I guess, on Monday. They walked away with that. So congratulations, the boys from up Canada way.
Multi-time winners.
And Saturday night, we'll be out with the band Close Quarters. We'll be at Highway 61 Roadhouse in Webster Groves, right at the old Street Side Records over there. And we'll be there from 7 to 10. We call it the Old Man Circuit, in early, out early. Great food. And if you got a group of 4 or more, good thing is to go online to 61 Roadhouse, and they'll make sure they got a table for you. So we hope to see you there on Saturday night and do a little rock and roll.
Awesome. And Skip, what's happening at Weber Chevrolet?
Well, we're into a new month. We beginning of every month, we always get those returns for all the reviews, and we continued our dominance as the top 3 Chevy stores in terms of best reviewed.
Yeah. Reputation scores, customer service.
.com and reputation.com. But one thing, to drill down a little more specific, we did actually suffer some hail damage in Columbia, and I think we've talked about that before. We had, a lot of vehicles were damaged pretty bad, and we're fixing them. But the vehicles with light damage, and they have $800 or $600 or $500. These are the kind of vehicles that you can hardly even see it. It's tough to see, and a lot of our customers say, "Don't worry about fixing them, just give me the money," and we do. We get or we say, well, if you fix these 2 dents for $50, and we'll give you the rest of it. Those kinds of things. We do that all the time. So it's led to a little bit of extra savings. In this day and age where everything's online and everything's kind of a real low price to begin with, an extra $800, $1,000, $400, whatever it might be, is great to have. And sometimes we cut it back as a check, and people use it for accessories or pay their taxes or just spending money, and they're buying the car with it otherwise too. So just something to be aware of. We've sold a lot of the cars already, so it's not going to go forever, but probably through this month, there'll be some savings you can make at our Columbia location.
First pickup truck I ever bought, Skip, was right after a hailstorm. And when I was still living at home, and
you probably got a bit of extra.
I got it. Yeah, it was a great deal, and I was like, whoa, I was like, all right, yeah. So
and the thing about it is,
I've lived that.
Not every ding, but a lot of these dings, when it gets hot in the summer, all of a sudden you come out and the dimples are gone.
Yeah.
The sun will take it out. Certainly not all of them. It's not an automatic thing. Like I said, we fix the severe ones. We don't like to have something that looks really beat up, but we'll walk around it with the customer, and so many of them say, "Give me the money. I'll take the money," because, like I said, they're by the middle of the summer it'll be gone, or they don't see it anyway, and they know that, hey, I'm going to be driving this for 5-6 years, and it's going to have other little things here and there. So big deal. Just save me the money. Or we can fix it too.
Yeah.
And so when a lot of the times we fix it and still have some money left over to give the people. So it can be a nice deal. It's a pain. It's a lot of work, but it usually ends up in some extra sales and certainly some extra savings. So we don't always get too down when we have that hail damage come in.
Yeah, good stuff. Check out what's happening at all three Weber dealerships, WeberChevrolet.com. Skip Weber, Mark Klose, thanks, guys. As always, we'll talk to you again next week. Have a great rest of your day.
See you, boys.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and before we hand things off to the Tim Jones and Chris Harp show, we are going to dive back into the headlines. Donald Trump making news today with his latest tariff announcement, increasing tariffs on China while giving the rest of the world a break. We will talk to our financial expert, Paul Kurtman, next on Colombo Company.
Can't you see that I am not afraid? What was that promise that you made?
News Talk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 1019 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
You take it for granted your drinking water has fluoride in it, but can you take it for granted fluoride is safe for you? Fluoride is a naturally occurring mineral, and scientists discovered it could strengthen teeth, prevent cavities. That's when they began to put it into the U.S. water systems. 1945, Grand Rapids became the first city in the world to fluoridate its drinking water. Some of you might remember arguments, debates, keep it out of our water. Well, since that time, some European countries in the 70s and again in the 80s, countries like Denmark and Sweden have banned fluoridation. Now there are new questions. Does fluoride affect young minds, leading to autism, ADHD? Plus, do we even need it in our water? That's because nowadays, most toothpaste contain it. By the way, most bottled water does not have fluoride. But the debate is starting all over again. You concerned, not just for you, but for your kids. Well, for the kids, milk, maybe tea. For you, milk, coffee, tea, maybe Jack. Ah, I know my preference. What is yours?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Here's great news. Napoli Kirkwood is now open. So that means fine dining right in the heart of Kirkwood. So you have the original Cafe Napoli in downtown Clayton, Napoli 2, Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, plus Napoli Brothers Pasta and Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, and now adding Napoli Kirkwood. What a great place to dine. Napoli Kirkwood, now open.
Clint Black in concert.
This killing time.
Clint Black, an incredible night featuring some of his greatest hits. Saturday, April 12th, 7 p.m., the Family Arena. Clint Black in concert. Special guests Ruby Lee and Emily Ann Roberts. On sale now at the Carroll House Furniture box office located at the Family Arena or Ticketmaster. Don't miss Clint Black.
Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. Means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors. Experience the passion. Oh, yeah. You can go in and see the best variety, the best pricing, the best quality, the best personalized service right there off of Highway K in O'Fallon, or you can have the store come to you. Oh, yeah. Brian and his team take great pride in running a fantastic flooring outlet, and you can get their 5-star ratings right there on Google. Just check it out. It's O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Just a few minutes before we have to hand things off to the O'Reilly Report and the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. So wanted to jump right in here. I told you on Monday, Paul, that I would probably be calling you for more segments this week. And Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments is on the line with us now. We talked earlier in the show, Paul, with Larry Connors about the latest move by Donald Trump, increasing tariffs on China, but pausing tariffs on the rest of the world. And the markets went from, last couple days, everybody's saying that the world was ending, and now everybody's on top of the world again. The roller coaster continues. Wanted to get your thoughts on the latest developments with Trump's tariffs.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Tony. What a day. What a day for the stock market. I've been watching the S&P 500. It ended the day up over 9.5%. I've never seen anything like it in my life. But like I've said before, the market needed a correction. The tariff conversation triggered it. But whether or not it goes up and down has a lot to do with the headlines rather than the facts. And so paying attention to the headlines that's going on right now is really what's driving the economy. I think it is really fascinating how Donald Trump is putting this pause on these reciprocal tariffs with everybody except for China. And two reasons he said for it. One reason he said everybody was getting a little bit yippy. I'm not exactly sure what that meant. But he also said that 75 countries have come to the negotiating table because they want to revisit this whole tariff package. And so for him to pause it everywhere except China and then raise China's to 125, I think it's possible that we might be seeing happening in the near future is a lot of the countries on this list begin to put more pressure. That just adds more pressure to China to also want to come to the table, because everybody else is except for China, and they're being punished for it by this tariff war that's going back and forth. I don't know if Donald Trump did that on purpose. I'm inclined to believe that he did because things just seem to be falling into the right place in order to put that kind of pressure on China to get them to the table.
So when we talk about what happened today, so, before today, the message was we've been taken advantage by the entire world, some countries worse than others, but the entire world, and everybody needs to pay and everybody needs to be on the same playing field. And that was the message. And then today it's like, the rest of the world's off the hook, but we're targeting China. It's, for me, this is just my personal opinion. We're kind of walking the fine line of playing games and the serious negotiating that a situation like this should be. What are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, I can't, as you mentioned, I just can't even remember a time that has been more topsy-turvy, than these this last week or so with the tariffs and the economy.
Well, I think it could easily look like that to us.
Sure.
Because from
You
one
can
day
even
to
say
the
look
next-
like that to the uneducated, because this is not my strength. So, that's why I
Yeah.
talk to folks like you.
and from one day to the next, when you walk in on a negotiation and you're kind of on the outside, you might hear people say some pretty outlandish things. They ask for something that almost seems impossible, and it sounds like, well, you're not taking this serious. But we have a major seat at the table as a world power, as an economic power in the globe, around the globe. And so when Donald Trump comes out with something big that just seems incredibly crazy and outlandish and too big of an ask, that's really part of his strategy. And I think that's part of his art of the deal. And this is why going into a negotiation, you might hear people say, hey, ask for something that just sounds way too big.
Yeah.
But then that becomes the bargaining chip to scale back a little bit, but you're still at a net positive from what you otherwise would have come into if you would have asked for something smaller. Maybe that's what's going on here. And so from the outset, it might look like we're playing games, but right now China's in a place where they have this huge tariff, and we have 75 countries that want to renegotiate our trade deals. And so I think that this could really be shaping out to be really beneficial for the country, because Donald Trump continues to demonstrate that he's using these tariffs as a negotiation chip rather than an actual economic reform policy.
And we've talked a lot about one of the biggest negative for Trump and in the country with this approach is that the temporary window of time that prices could go up, and we could suffer in some of those areas. But if you think about this, if there's truly 75 countries lining up to renegotiate, and he's paused on all those countries except for China for 90 days, that's late summer. That's a pretty long time. Maybe there isn't any of that period of suffering because things stay as is for the next 90 days. And if those agreements are in place before the 90 days runs out, maybe he dodges that time of pain and still gets the benefits of this tariff policy. What do you?
Yeah,
go ahead.
90 days for all these countries to come to an agreement, and clearly they want to come to an agreement. So on one side, during this next 90-day window of time, you have 75 countries coming to the table, and they want to work something out. They want a deal that's good for them, and we want a deal that's good for us. But during the same period of time, Donald Trump is like a pit bull going after China, like raising their tariffs to 125%. That is wild. But China doesn't want to back down because they don't want to appear to be weak either.
Kevin O'Leary said it should be 400%. Did you see that? And he was serious.
Yeah, and I believe that it could be, but this is something that Donald Trump, I think, really wants to see. Have we been getting ripped off? We have been getting ripped off by China. And what makes it worse, Tony, is we have so much Chinese production that we are dependent on. The vast majority of all active pharmaceutical ingredients come from China and India. A lot of the semiconductors that we need, a lot of refining of rare earth minerals, all comes from China. And so we're so dependent on them. And so we really have to get them to want to come to the table to talk about this issue, the economic issue, but also so much more. And I believe that that's where it's headed.
Paul Kurtman, really, really appreciate the little bonus time this afternoon. We will talk to you again for sure in a few days. And yeah, thanks as always, my friend. Paul Kurtman from PR Kurtman Investments. Have a great rest of your day, my friend. Great stuff there from Paul Kurtman as this tariff issue just seems to evolve every 24 hours or less. And we will continue to keep an eye on that and so much more. Stella and I will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. In the meantime, keep it here for the O'Reilly Report. Next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Sharp Show. Subscribe to the Colombo Company podcast if you haven't already. And we'll see you tomorrow.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, DIY warriors, ready to transform your outdoor space? Start with Lee May Concrete Block, St. Louis's trusted family-owned manufacturer since 1947. Whether you're building a retaining wall, creating a backyard fireplace, or pouring concrete, Lee May's got you covered. From compact blocks to large cast concrete, they provide materials and professional guidance to bring your vision to life. Military and first responders get special discounts. Visit Lee May Block Showroom or LeeMayBlock.com. Lee May Block, building your dream one block at a time.
McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving.